This is Identity at the Center. If it has anything to do with IAM, this is the go-to podcast. Now your hosts, Jim McDonald and Jeff Stedman.
Welcome to the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Oh, not so bad. Yourself?
I'm doing good. And true to form, even though we're doing a Jim and Jeff episode today, I've got a banter topic. And I did not tell you what the topic was going to be, but it's a multiple choice question, right? We're going into Memorial Day weekend. It's the beginning of the summer travel season in the U.S. And travel is just going to be a bunker. So this episode is going to drop on Monday, still part of that weekend. And this is a travel related question. And the multiple choices, which of these three things would you be first to give up? Okay. So the first one is TSA pre. The second one is your Delta Club access. However you would be able to get in there. Just give it up. You can't go. And then the third thing is your status on Delta.
The thing that I am least willing to give up? That's the question? Or no, which one of those will I give
up? Which one would you give up? And go ahead and do it in order. Which is the one that you would hold most dear?
Well, I would definitely keep pre-check. I mean, that's the one thing that's universal, at least for me. I would fly right in and not have to worry about laptop out of bag, shoes, none of that stuff. That's, for me, that's the most important thing. I think the club is probably second most important. Just so there's a place to sit down, do some work, food, beverage, whatever it may be. I don't really think I have great status with Delta anyway. So I've inherited most of it from a transition from United where I had the status, but most of the flights are full anyway. And depending on when you book, I'm not like, I think I'm platinum right now, but it really doesn't get you anything other than you can book Comfort Plus for free, which is like the premium economy. It's still economy. So, I think that's, so the one I'm willing to give up is airline status, because most of the flights I'm booking these days, it's pretty rare that there's a Comfort Plus. I just booked a flight to Denver yesterday and there are no Comfort Plus seats to book. So I'm going to be stuck in the back and it's fine. Grab either a window or an aisle and, try to look for maybe a upgrade to a exit row seat to have a little more room. But I mean, air travel just sucks anyway. So
it does.
Unless you're flying first class or like business class, it sucks.
Yeah.
What
it's a really tough question. It's a really tough question, right? Because all those things are things that we as frequent flyers cherish. I'm actually the exact opposite.
Really? You'd rather keep your status?
Yeah. I figure
you want to take your laptop and you want to take your shoes off. I mean, I guess depending on the
I don't want to do those things. Believe me, I don't want to do those things. Yeah, no. And, but I feel like if you have status with the airline, even if you wind up in like a bad seat or whatever, if you fly an airline without any status, it's like the wild card. You're just another head on the plane. I don't know. I mean,
piece of meat in the cattle car.
You're just taking up space on the plane. The other thing is, I saw a video the other day that talked about, it was on YouTube and it had a very clickbaity title, which was that airlines are actually banks now. That the way that they make money is through their frequent flyer program and specifically people getting their credit cards and things like that. And that's how they make money. Their frequent flyer programs are worth billions and their flights basically break even if they're lucky.
I could see that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Try to diversify too. But yeah, I can't imagine if you're flying, anywhere for a few $100 to cover the costs of that. You have to really be at scale. And I don't know. I don't know the economics behind it, but I guess that doesn't surprise me given how important credit cards are to airlines.
Yeah. The other thing with the club, I definitely appreciate the club. I think Delta's clubs are pretty good. But I don't think they're like, breathtaking or anything, right? It's like, I think back in the day they had showers in them, which
some still do.
I probably wouldn't use them anyway.
Yeah.
Going to the club and taking a shower. I mean, if I flew overnight, I think I would, but I never really do that. So That that's not a benefit that I care about. The other thing that I don't like about the club is like if you fall asleep in your chair, somebody will come and wake you up because you're not allowed to sleep in the club. So,
I'm
I
okay
mean,
with
I
that.
love the clubs.
You want
Yeah,
to keep people moving. I mean, the Delta clubs they were a real problem towards the end of last year. Like lines out the door out of like every club at Atlanta, which is a hub, which, okay, I get it. Atlanta's a busy, but heck, I'm paying what, $500, $600 for a Delta club. I expect to be able to use it. And there was like 5 or 6 trips in a row where it's like, I'm not standing in line for half an hour of my 90-minute layover, just to get in to get a free drink and some average food.
yeah, and you don't even drink alcohol. So,
Right.
yeah, the other thing is like what used to be for the club for me was like it was a sanctuary from the terminal. The terminal was just like chaos. And you go into the club, it'd be a little, but you go into some of those Delta clubs, it's just like
It's
it's just
madness.
a big. It's more chaotic than the terminal. So might as well go to a restaurant and have somebody bring me food or sit at the bar or whatever. If it's a couple hour layover. But the thing now with Delta is like if you show up at the airport, like sometimes I fly right out of Atlanta most of the time. And if you get there more than 3 hours from your departure, you can't come into the club. I guess what they're trying to do is what you're talking about earlier, prevent people from coming to the club and sitting there all day and just eating their food and drinking their drinks or whatever.
Taking up
But
space. Yep.
yeah.
Keep
Now,
it moving.
TSA pre is great, right? Not having to take your shoes off and things like that. But I think I don't know what it would be like to get by without it, but I think I could.
Well, you go. I guess I fly out of a small airport now, so it's less of a thing. But when I was in Chicago, there was a big difference between going through the pre-check line and the non-pre-check line.
Yeah. Well,
Dozens of minutes, sometimes hours.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
with
No.
pre-check, you just kind of fly right in. But I also have clear too. So, when you have clear and pre-check, if you're at a place that has both, which is not too common, unfortunately for me these days, that's like a skip the line.
Yeah. Well, Delta at Atlanta has a thing with their app, and I'm not sure what it's called, but essentially it just looks at your face when you walk up. You bypass every line. It's even quicker than clear. Just they point a camera at your face and do their magic. So I'm not sure what technology it's using.
I like your
I think
face.
as an
I will allow
identity,
you in. I don't like your face. Get out of here.
as a digital identity podcast, we probably should know these things.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get somebody to come on and tell us about it.
I know IDEMIA does a lot of, it seems like, airport security type stuff. I see their logo on a bunch of stuff at like pre-check. So maybe there's somebody we can pull on from there.
I'll
Get on
cracking on that. I get on that. Yeah, that's my job on the podcast.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Identiverse, which I guess technically is starting tomorrow for people listening to this. We're recording this on a Friday morning for Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S. You and I are actually both flying on Monday out to Las Vegas. Identiverse kicks off. It's like 4:00 local time, I think, something like that, at the Aria Casino in Las Vegas. So we'll be there, and we're going to kind of talk through today about what the podcast plans are, because we've got a few different things going on. Hopefully people come by and say hello when they see us, and then some of the sessions I think that you and I are both interested in, assuming that you will let me go to a session instead of holding me up into a room doing recordings and editing all week.
Well, yeah, our schedule's not as bad as I usually make it, right? Where
It is
recording.
not. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Jeff, by the way, on Wednesday, we're recording 5 episodes.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, we need to get those 5 episodes out in the next couple of days. I don't think we're going to do that this time, right? We're going to kind of stretch them out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, look, this year we both have some vacations coming up, and the July 4th holiday is right around the corner, so we're going to record a bunch at Identiverse, and we'll have a bit of a tail from that, and we'll spread those episodes. We drop an episode every Monday. Usually by the time I wake up, I already see the LinkedIn post from you that the episode's out there and available.
Yeah. So we'll continue that role, but yeah, that's sort of the plan, is to, instead of our normal conference thing where we like smatter a bunch of shows every day, I think just to keep one sanity so that I can actually enjoy the conference and attend things, but also, like you mentioned, the vacation stuff like that. I'm going to London in a couple of weeks, so I've been on the road quite a bit for the last few weeks. I've got Where was I this week? I was in Harrisburg this week, Pennsylvania. I'm going to Vegas next week, or this week, I should say, depending on when you're listening to this. And then I go to Denver the week after that. And then I think I might be home for a week. And then I'm going to London for 2 weeks for vacation. So yeah, my schedule is pretty crap for meetings until the end of June.
What's London like in June? Is it going to be like super hot?
I'm not sure. I think it's probably, approaching the warmest side. I'll have to ask our friend Andy Hindle while we're at Identiverse. Going to try and see if we can sync up with him for, I don't know, beer, tea, something while I'm out there.
What, tea and crumpets?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of crumpets, we're going to be in Vegas. Obviously there's the linkage between crumpets and Vegas, right?
Yeah.
But no, I was thinking of a restaurant called Yardbird.
Oh, I love Yardbird.
You love Yardbird?
Best chicken and waffles I've ever had. And I am looking forward to it, man.
Best chicken and waffles. Mm-hmm. Best chicken and waffles. And also the best biscuits. And I've lived in the South for like 15 years, and I've never had biscuits as good as they have. So definitely hitting that up. What do you think of Vegas overall?
I like Vegas. I know people don't like it, but I don't have, any serious vices like drinking and gambling. So for me, it's, seeing the sights, people watching, in a conference. I think it's a great conference town because everything's so convenient. Hotel rooms are easy to get to and stuff like that. But the food and really just people watching is what I'm looking forward to. I'll be there all week, so I don't think I leave until like Saturday. So I think my record is 14 days in Vegas.
That's too long.
It sounds like a long time, but it was, I had a conference 1 week and then a wedding was coming up like a few days after that, rather than just crisscrossing, within 2 weeks. I just stayed an extra 4 or 5 days.
I remember that.
Yeah. But I like Vegas. Maybe I'm in the minority these days, but I do like it. And I do like that it's become much easier to breathe inside the casinos because of the air filtration and it's less smoking and stuff like that. But yeah, I still like it.
I'm a Vegas fan. I like pretty much the things that you like, but on top of that, the amount of entertainment that's there, things to do. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of food. I don't gamble much these days. I don't have any real like stories of like, oh my gosh, I went in there and lost thousands of dollars or anything. And I really don't overdrink when I'm in Vegas, or I try not to. It's just really not my thing as much anymore these days. I find that especially early in the week, if you're there for a conference, if you start drinking alcohol, it's
not a party. I mean, we're two grumpy old men probably at this point.
So if it's your first time going, your first time in Vegas,
pace yourself, moderation.
Pace yourself.
But enjoy yourself. It is a great town. There are a lot of things to do, see, go to the restaurants. I mean, hit Yardbird up. It's at the Venetian, which is really kind of the other, not too close, I guess, to Aria where Identiverse is, but it's a good spot.
I think if you're going to go, just, count on Uber. There's probably more Ubers per square feet in Vegas than anywhere else on the Strip, and get around and see some things.
Yeah. And if you're lucky, you'll get one of the self-driving cars. There's a couple that make the circuit through Vegas. So, I'm not sure if Lyft and Uber are still doing it, but I know there's another company that does. But when you land, sometimes you'll see an opt-in if you're willing to, have a self-driving car, which I've done. It's very, very cool. I did it like 3 years ago, and it was interesting.
Yeah,
but it worked. Well, I got there.
I wonder what you do if you get in an accident.
You sit there and you wait. I mean, there's a human in the car, so it's not like it's completely self-driving.
Okay.
But there is a human operator, but they're just there as a safety mechanism.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like kind of like a Tesla with autopilot.
Yeah, we see a human in the car as a safety mechanism now. Someday we may look at it as like the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the conference as well. I mean, I love identity and access management conferences. No one calls them that anymore. It's not an IAM conference. It's an identity conference.
Yep.
But I love like seeing all the people that we know. I think since the podcast we're running almost 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
There was obviously the whole pandemic period, but now that we're back, and I think we have more people who are aware of the podcast, listen to the podcast on a regular basis. We're people who know us come up. We get to see other folks. We're meeting new people. It's great. By the
Yeah,
way,
we keep growing. But before you move on, because I just kind of a cool story. I was at a Sale Point thing in Charlotte a few weeks ago, I guess at this point. And it was a small gathering. It was just kind of like hey, here's kind of what's coming up, stuff like that. I'm sitting off to the corner, just doing my own thing, not really, trying to draw attention to myself. But I had my laptop and I had a sticker on it. Of the 8 people in the room, 3 came up and introduced themselves and told me they were listeners, which was super cool. It was, it was very, very cool to have that experience. But people are out there listening, which is very cool. But I thought that was pretty neat. And then we got into a conversation with the Sale Point people, kind of after the session was over, about the heat death of the universe. So it was a very wide ranging conversation as it typically happens in the identity world. But I thought that was really fun and interesting.
now great that you had the sticker on your laptop, but I wonder how many people who follow the podcast actually know our faces. So these folks
Well,
just say,
lucky
I
for
listen
them,
to that
first of all.
podcast too. Jim and Jeff, those are some crazy guys.
Yeah. I don't know. I count their blessings that they haven't seen us. So maybe even a minor curse if they have to listen to us. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the anonymity of a audio podcast is nice. But you can always go on our website, idacpodcast.com, right, and see our pictures on the About page, and whether or not they are current with whatever our haircuts or facial hair or styles are. Try to keep them updated, but yeah.
Well, we had that live stream going for a while, and we kind of abandoned that because it would be like we do a live stream, put it on YouTube. 2 weeks later, it had 14 views.
Well, it was just so hard with the timing. We couldn't find like a good time, and I mean, it's already a real challenge. This is not our day job, right? We do this on the side, outside of our normal day job, doing identity and access management consulting. So, and with all the travel and stuff like that, it's really difficult to try and find like a specific time to say every week we're going to do that this time. And I think I'd love to try and get back into it, but I just don't know when we could fit it in or be consistent with it.
Right. I think the other challenge that people don't get, because I tell my son about our podcast, and obviously he's never listened, but he's like, why don't you guys do video? I'm like, well, there's not software that makes it easy to live stream video as well as do a quality recording.
I can find ways around that, but yeah, we just haven't done that. I think it sets a different level, I think, of expectation on the video side. I'm okay with it. I think you would be okay with it, but I think a lot of our guests would prefer maybe not to be on video, or maybe 50-50. So to kind of keep it easy. And that's a whole different level of editing as well. So I do the editing too. Audio editing is one thing. Adding video to it would take exponentially longer, probably, by the time it got out to the quality level that I want. The difference between a recording and a live stream is, I feel like, hey, the live stream, it is what it is. Like, there's not going to be any editing to it. This is just how it happened, and that's what you're going to see.
Jim said this. Beep.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit more about Identiverse, because I think we've got a few different things going on. We get in Monday. We've got Tuesday, which is kind of the official first day. We've got the opening keynote. And then we're going to be doing some recording live in front of a wandering studio audience, I'm going to call it, just outside the expo hall. We're supposed to start at 7:00. There is going to be our logo somewhere. I haven't seen it yet, but all I know is we'll have a table, some chairs, and the Identity of the Center logo somewhere outside the expo hall area at the ARIA. And we've got a few different guests kind of lined up to kind of come through and
drop-ins.
Drop-ins, panels, whatever it may be. If there's people in the audience that we want to ask questions to, of the, let's call it 2 people that might be watching us, or 1, or like, who the heck are those guys? Hopefully more, but we'll be recording just outside the expo hall at 7. Probably be getting there, setting up sometime between like 6 and 6:30, just to make sure that I've got everything ready to go for microphones and recording and stuff like that. But hopefully we'll see people stop by and say hello, maybe even be part of the show.
Yeah. I can't wait for that. We and it's not just something that we're doing as like, oh yeah, we're like popping up a table outside the expo hall. This is space that was granted to us and is being set up by the Identiverse conference. So, and everybody that we're having as drop-ins are not the people that we're going to be recording with during the week. A few of them are, like Ian. But with Ian, it's like we want to have him on the show anytime we can, because he's such a good speaker and he has like these really insightful ideas. So really looking forward to that. After we do that opening session, we'll have our shutdown time and get to shake hands and meet folks. And by the way, I will have the Identity Center stickers, which can be placed anywhere of your choosing. You can put them on your car, put them on your laptop lid, you put them on your coffee cup,
your child's forehead. Doesn't matter.
That might not be so good, but if you do, put a picture on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
and then I will reshare it or repost it, whatever they call it.
Yeah. So far, I think I like the best location I've seen is our friend Steven's on the back of his truck, and he's got like 2 or 3, I think, on there.
He's got a
trailer.
A trailer.
Yeah,
he's got a trailer, and he's got like all kinds of stickers. He's kind of like an old school hippie, but in the tech industry. I kind of consider myself that, not to as great of an extent. He still lives he's in like Washington State. But yeah, that was one of the best. But I've seen a few other good ones too. Our friend Dan Cabrera put one on his coffee mug. I shared that the other day. Someone said, "I want one of those coffee mugs." It's like, well, I can help you with the sticker part, but you're going to have to buy the coffee mug yourself.
Right. It's transferable to any coffee mug of your choice.
Mug of your choice. And so afterwards, after we shake hands and kiss babies, and 8:30 that night, we're going to have we're co-sponsoring our company. RSM is co-sponsoring with Okta and One Cosmos a happy hour at the Aria Hotel Bar. If you check out my LinkedIn feed, I've already shared the registration page. It's a little bit late in the game by the time this drops, but go out and register. I mean, I think there's like a fire capacity code of like they can't have more than a certain number of people in the area. So
yeah, stop by. Say hello. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares about fire?
I mean, I don't think 75 people in a small bar is going to make a dent in the overall ARIA population. So anyway, that's the way it is.
What about Thursday night? Because this is something you've been sort of like grassroots pulling together, which is interesting. I also like the fact that you committed me to it, and I was like, I'm not so sure yet, but yes, I will be there. Tell us about Thursday night.
Yeah. So Thursday night, I feel like all the after hours events are like sponsored by vendors, which is fine. I enjoy those sponsored events.
And accurate.
But I really want to go karaoke singing. And there's a live band karaoke Thursday nights at a bar in the Venetian called Rock House. And there's no cover. Basically just show up if you want to order drinks or food or whatever. Do it on your own dime. It's not going to be, covered by anybody, but there'll be a bunch of people from the Identiverse conference showing up, hopefully. At least Jeff and I will be there, and just get up and sing or watch other people attempt
Join
to
me on
sing.
the bench watching, because I am not singing. No matter the peer pressure. I'm going to just throw that out right now. I am immune to peer pressure, so don't even try it.
I don't expect you to get up there. There's no part of me that expects you to get up there.
You don't want me up there. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to be there. You don't want me there. Let's just have a good time. But it should be cool. I mean, it's something different, right? So like I said, it's not sponsored by anybody. It's just kind of come as you are. There's no like sales things or anything like that. No one's going to like collect your badge and send you 48 different emails
right,
around why you should be
exactly.
using their services, right? That kind of thing. Just come hang out and have a good time, kind of decompress, and hopefully be amongst like-minded people.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of feel like, it's always great to go to sponsored events, but I mean, you go out to this karaoke thing, no cover. What are you going to spend? A couple of bucks on a few drinks? I'd say.
Well, it's Vegas, might be a little more.
So, yeah, right. Exactly. Like a couple bucks per drink.
Right. Couple bucks on a Coke, maybe.
On a Coke, exactly. But I think it'll be a lot of fun, whether you like to sing or not. If it strikes a tune with you, go for it. Meet us there. 9:30ish on Thursday night.
Okay. And it's at the Venetian. So the Rock House bar at the Venetian, which is probably want to grab an Uber to go over there, or it's probably a decent sized walk to get that spot. But yeah, we're planning on hitting there around 9:30 or so, and join me on the bench. We can enjoy ourselves and have a vendor neutral, sponsor free conversation.
And it's right next to the Yardbird.
Yeah, I'm going to be there early, so I'm going to be at the Yardbird probably getting some chicken and waffles, and then I'm going to hit Rock Bar.
Yeah, that's a great plan.
That's what we've got going on for stuff. We've got a bunch of good guests that are lined up that Jim has worked painstakingly to craft. Do we want to mention some of them? Obviously, it's always subject to change because you never know with cancellations, but do you want to kind of go through what we've, at least as of right now, got planned?
Yeah. So I'm afraid to mention this, right? Because things can change. People could be, sick and not able to make it to the conference or what have you.
You've had a couple already, yeah.
I'm going to go through them. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go through them in kind of the order that we're recording. So from the One Cosmos team, we got Mike Engel, who's going to be return guest. It'll be, I think, his third appearance, but the last time he was on talking about self-sovereign ID. Oh, wait, before I even go into too much depth on individual sessions. So I had this like crazy idea, which imagine that Jim McDonald with a crazy idea, right?
That never happened.
So I wanted to focus all of our podcast recordings that week on the future. What are things going to be like in the future? And so I've been calling it Nostradamus Week. So when we take a topic like self-sovereign ID, decentralized ID, identity wallets, and we talk with folks from One Cosmos about that, it's not a big fixation on, where are things at now? How does it work? It's like, no, like in 3 to 5 years, how's life going to be different? Are we going to be walking around with these self-sovereign IDs? Are we going to have these identity wallets? How's that going to be different than the wallet that I have on my iPhone? Because I'm still like grappling with that. I'm still not sure I completely understand it. So that's one of our sessions. Another one is like, to me, like really exciting. So we're going to have Andre Durand, CEO and co-founder, or I think he's just maybe the one and only founder, but we'll say founder or co-founder of Ping. We'll find that out during the episode.
Probably want to do our research.
Yeah, when or through research or as we get his identity origin story. And I mean, I just want to get his insights across a lot of different identity topics, how things are going to be in the future. All right. Then we have Gal Halemsky from Plain ID. Plain ID is an authorization company. So she's going to be talking, she talks a lot about PBAC. Policy-based access control, and how that is the same or different from RBAC and ABAC. But even more than that, how are things going to be in the future? Like, is this game-changing technology that we're talking about? Is this going to replace RBAC or put a big dent in RBAC? It feels like identity practitioners hold on strongly to RBAC because we all know it. I think what's great about RBAC is like we understand it. The benefits are obvious. How it's done is it makes sense. Let's explain to you. So this policy-based access control, is it going to change the game? I'm sure Gal's perspective is yes, but we'll see, right? That's why we're having the conversation. And then last but not least, Ian Glazer from ID Pro is going to come on and talk about how things are going to be in the future. And one of the questions is artificial intelligence, blah, 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 blah. So now you fill in the blank. What is the blah, 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 blah? So, really looking forward to those sessions. And the idea is that each one of those sessions would drop over the course of the month of June, one per week.
Yeah, while we're on vacation and stuff like that. So give us a little break. You were very concerned about missing a week. And I was like, we put out 60, maybe 70 sometimes episodes per year. Like we can drop a week, but no, you can thank Jim every Monday, come rain or shine, there is going to be an episode. So that's what happens.
Well, think about it. So this would put us up to episode 219 by the end of June,
something like that. Yeah,
4 years. Every Monday we've dropped an episode. I mean, we take off
like Christmas and like New Year's and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the number 219, I think, is more than 4 times 52 because we go to conferences and do some extra episodes. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, other than that break we take over the holiday, which we're always very clear about, we don't just like miss episodes because we get busy. We don't miss Monday drops. So I think that's not just, I don't get all the credit for that. You're the one who does all the work to make this happen in terms of the editing and getting things published and getting it out on LinkedIn and everything. So
It's a team effort. All right, let's keep going before we self-congratulate ourselves to death.
We're doing great, Jeff.
What about sessions this week? I know I've got like 5 that I've kind of picked out over a couple days. Do you have anything that you've got your eye on that you're looking at attending?
So I've got a framework by which I looked at the sessions and said,
of course you do. Of course you have a framework for it.
Framework. So anything that was futuristic because of the Nostradamus Week theme, any sessions tagged as application of identity. I love, sessions that are focused on, real world use cases where, people have actually taken some of these technologies, especially the newer technologies, and implemented them or in a unique use case. Sessions by people that we know, especially our listeners and guests, sessions with introduction to in the title. So like introduction to passkeys or introduction to self-sovereign ID. Like I love when someone can take a complex topic and boil it down to somebody who knows nothing about it. And I want to hear that. Even if I already understand that topic in depth, I want to understand how to message it more clearly so that somebody who's new to the topic can pick it up.
Speaking of passkeys, before we move on, have you set up any passkeys yet?
No.
I did for Google, and it's great.
Yeah.
I like it, so I'm looking forward to more support. But if you have not set up a passkey, you can set it up in your Google account now. And once you do, it basically just shows up on your, at least for me, on the iPhone as part of your keychain, and no password. You just get right in, authenticate you right there. It works great. So congratulations to Google getting that rolled out in Fido. But I just had to say that because I just set mine up. I want to say like maybe within the last 7 to 10 days. And I had to re-authenticate to a device earlier this morning, and it was like super smooth and super easy, and it worked as you would expect it to.
How did you figure out how to do it?
I got an email, I think, actually from Google. I knew they announced it, just hadn't gotten around to doing it yet. But I went through, set it up. It's in the Google security settings. It's one of the options, kind of the same area that you would set up MFA. And one of them is set up passkey. And you go through a brief enrollment process. It's kind of like any other MFA type of situation, right? It's like, click here, scan this code, do this thing, and then, verify your identity on the device. And then you're good to go. That's it. What's neat is that it doesn't require, at least on the iPhone, doesn't require a separate app. So it's built into iOS, and it's part of the keychain there. So now it's just, hey, I get the prompt. It's a native prompt that comes up. I authenticate through biometrics on the phone, and I'm in. That's it.
Very cool. The last part of my framework was all things FIDO and passkeys and anything to do with securing cloud and DevOps. And I did notice one session from Tubora. They have a session referring to the machine identities as workflow identities. So I'm interested to sit in that session because one thing I have a strong feeling that, the management of these machine identities and how they're used, it's much more of a framework than just a technology like secrets management. If the whole session is about secrets management and check in, check out accounts, like I'm going to be pretty disappointed. So the last thing I would say is that, it wouldn't be me if I didn't log a complaint. And my complaint is I wish I knew which sessions would be available for offline viewing after the conference, because, a lot of times sessions, there's more than one session that looks interesting at the same time. And I probably go in person to the one that is not being recorded and watch the recorded one later. So just for future, if you're a conference planner out there setting up a future identity conference, that's what I would like as a feature.
Yeah. that's a common complaint with every, I think, conference, right? There's always competing sessions. Which one do you go to? It's expensive to do those recordings and put them out there. So certainly an added cost. I think it's worth it, but every conference treats it a little bit different. I have no idea what Identiverse is doing this year, but historically they have made a lot of them available after the fact through either YouTube or other mechanisms, stuff like that. So hopefully we'll see something similar this year.
So what about you? What are you looking forward to?
I did not apply a framework. The way I looked at it was like, okay, I want to look for customer stories, things that are not vendor driven as much as I could. So I took that as sort of like my priority. And then I just picked topics that either I want to know more about or that I think might be interesting, things like that. There's one I'm looking at from Ebony Love at McDonald's. I will sing it here for you. This is the only one. Bottleneck, addressing crew onboarding challenges at McDonald's, which I think would be interesting to understand, how they rapidly onboard, offboard people. I think is sort of the intention of it. And I think that's something a lot of companies are interested in. So I'm kind of going that to look at it more from like a fast-paced, dynamic environment when you have to do that quick onboarding, offboarding, and see what they did to tackle it. Eve Mailer that's on Wednesday. Eve Mailer has one called Can Subsidiarity Save Decentralization, which is a real tongue twister of a title. Eve is great, so looking forward to her speak. But I want to understand, what does she mean by subsidiarity? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around still decentralized and, what are the different options that kind of come along with that.
Absolutely. That's on my list too.
Yeah. Thursday, there is something that I'm pretty interested in, identity in the C-suite, the role of the chief identity officer. That's a panel. I know Ian's going to be on that, as well as Andy Hindle and a few others.
Too, right?
I don't know if it's a keynote or not, but I like the idea of, has identity and access management as a function within a company risen to a C-suite level role, like the chief information security officer or the chief information officer or IT officer, right? Things like that. What are organizations starting to say, hey, yeah, we do need a chief identity officer? I like the idea, but I want to see what the panel thinks about it and kind of help inform my view of it as well.
If the panel is listening, one thing I'd like to know is, like, what does that mean? Like, if you say somebody's the chief privacy officer, what's the difference between that and saying they're the director or VP of privacy?
Well, I think privacy generally is more on the regulation side of things, typically, whereas the identity officer is something that supports that. It's a great question. I have no idea. I know there are privacy officers out there.
What does the word chief mean? Does the word chief mean, like, is that something different than just being in charge of it and being a VP?
When I see the word chief, I think C-suite. You are in charge of something for the organization and the buck stops with you. You're the chief executive officer, CEO, whatever that looks like. And maybe that's a good thing, bad thing. I like the idea of identity having a much higher visibility role with more pull, because a lot of times identity is kind of shoved in under typically information security, and the CISO kind of typically represents it, but maybe it's, the CIO that does some of it as well. But if this moves identity up the stack into the corporate hierarchy, I think that's a good idea. I'm in favor of that.
Yeah.
Selfishly, obviously, we're identity.
No, and I asked the question just because I truly just don't know.
Yeah. I don't think anybody knows. I don't know of anybody who is a chief identity officer in what I'll call the real world. Maybe at like an identity company or something like that.
Like our friend of the show, David Motti, is the chief identity officer at Transmit Security.
An identity company. Yeah.
Not the real world, damn it.
Yeah. Well, I separate identity vendors and people like you and I in the consulting business into, the real world are enterprise people in the real world who are, they're not software vendors. They're not doing consulting services. They're solving the real identity problems in the real world.
Yeah. The practitioners.
Yep. So that's what I'm looking forward to. There's another one with Pamela Dingle and Tia Loudon from, I think, Microsoft. I know Pamela's with Microsoft. I think they're both from Microsoft. History is written by the anomalies. Know the numbers or be the news. That's on Thursday as well. I always like facts and figures. I mean, they're great for kind of pointing out things. Obviously, want to understand the data behind that, but hopefully there'll be some new facts and figures that kind of point to help articulate why identity is important. or facets of identity are important to people, especially in the kind of the role that I play. And then on Friday, one thing that I am always looking to do is how we develop new identity talent. So Aaron Crow, who has been on the show before as well. So I didn't just pick people who were on the show, but I like the topic, building the plane while flying, or how to develop new identity talent. I think that's a big risk for a lot of organizations, is how do you find the right people, and how do you find how do you get your people up to speed in the identity world, right? You and I are working on this in our day jobs, right? How do we make sure that our teams are staffed, trained, experts, in a given area, that kind of thing. And every organization kind of suffers with that. So I'm look forward to see what Erin says. Maybe she's got some tips and tricks for us that we can take back into the real world.
Yeah, she usually got some real insightful ideas. So I think that's one thing. Like, I read the description of Eve's presentation and what do they call it? Subsidiaries. I was like, I don't even know what that is. But if I know anything about Eve's presentations, I will walk out of it knowing what that is. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I really love, is like, take that complex topic that I don't understand now and make me understand it. So there are a few specific.
Shove the knowledge into your brain.
Make me pay attention. Okay, so there are a few that struck a chord with me. One was, I think it's on Tuesday, 2023 Trends in Securing Digital Identities. There are two friends of the show, Tom Sheffield from Target, Jeff Reich from IDSA, as well as a few other obviously bright folks who are going to be talking about these trends. I love trends. Zero Trust Architecture for B2C Identity at General Motors. Andrew Cameron, he's not a current friend of the show, but I talk to him a lot on LinkedIn, so really he should be a friend of the show. So Andrew, we need to talk about that, but looking forward to your talk. Folks from Visa are presenting IGA strategies for achieving least privilege. And obviously this is something that I've been picking a lot on lately on the show.
Now, which Visa is that? Visa, credit card or...
No, VEZA.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Visa, like not like a Visa card, but Visa, like the authorization company. And then connected car identities at scale with someone, Dr. Stephen Venema, PhD from FordRock. I had Ian's session on the what was that? The chief. No, I'm sorry. This was on the ceremony. So again, just kind of like from the standpoint that he's pretty insightful, but I think also he could take something that you think you know about and give a twist to it, and you're like, oh, okay, I never thought of it that way. Nishant is doing a collision course, Ethics versus Human-Centered Design in the New Perimeter. And I got a taste of that human-centered design, so I think I get that. I think I know ethics. I think I've heard of that before, but the New Perimeter, I'm not sure what that is, but Nishant's a fantastic presenter, man. What a good presenter he is. Our friend David Motti is doing a presentation, Is It Time to Panic? How Attackers Are Leveraging ChatGPT and How to Respond with Intelligent Identity Security. So I'll be there in honor of you, Jeff, a resident ChatGPT guy.
Yeah.
Vittorio's presenting on verifiable credentials for the identity practitioner. I think he's going to boil it down so even people like me can understand it. I've got the Eve session that you just talked about, the C-suite discussion you just talked about. There's also one from Talus Group, presents B2B IAM, a gap between modern demands and current practices. And, B2B is kind of like one of my areas that I'm pretty passionate about in IAM. And then there's one, how Hyatt is driving exceptional customer experiences with modern FIDO passwordless authentication. And it'll be someone there from Hyatt, someone there from Yubico. And then programming engineers, how standards shape the way we work, with Justin Riker. And Justin is a future friend of the show. He's going to be on in July. So keep tuned for that episode. He was actually recommended to me by Mike Woodburn, who heard him on Vittorio's podcast and is like, you got to get this guy on your show. So I reached out to him. He's an ID Pro member. That's it. And, the real rub is I just mentioned all those sessions. It's going to be hard to attend all the sessions with the recordings and everything. So I'm going to add them to my agenda and get to as many as possible.
Yeah, the same thing. I tried not to kill myself this time. I'm going to spend a lot of time back and forth between recording episodes and probably the vendor hall and the couple of sessions that I've got targeted going back and forth. But
so you're going to be trying to pick up free swag?
No, I just have a lot of conversations that I need to have with folks. I try to set an extremely low expectation level for swag at conferences these days. I haven't seen anything really cool or interesting in a while, actually. So hopefully I'll be surprised. But if I keep my expectations low, it's like, yeah, I don't need another T-shirt or a camera cover or anything like that. Like, I want
vendor
cool.
socks.
I'm not a sock guy, so that doesn't do anything for me either. I know the sock population is out there. I get it. It's just not my thing.
I joined the sock movement like 10 years after it started. So I'm kind of like behind the curve on socks, but they're pretty cool. I like them.
All right. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. Hopefully people have safe trips out to Vegas. Hopefully we'll see people stop by our live wandering audience session 7 p.m. Tuesday night. Before we go, what's going to be your karaoke song on Thursday night that you're going to be belting out?
So
have you picked one yet, or do you have a couple?
So Denise is going to pick one that we'll sing together, and it'll minimize the part that I have to do. Nobody wants to hear me sing a 3 or 4 minute song.
I have not heard Denise sing yet, and I've heard she's fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that. Denise is your girlfriend, by the way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so this is one thing to prepare. So anybody who's planning on going out who wants to sing, go out to the Rock House website. You can find it on Google, and they have a list of songs. This is a live band. It's not like they're just picking 10,000 songs from, the Carousel library. You have like 40, 50 songs to choose from. So pick one that maybe listen to it a few times before you go. That's all I've got. What about you, Jeff? What are you hoping to hear?
Well, you didn't name a song.
I don't know.
Is it going to be a surprise?
It's going to be a surprise.
Okay. Well, I'm not singing any song, so this is purely a question for you. I'm hopeful that I'll hear maybe some 90s alternatives or Nirvana, some Pearl Jam, maybe if someone's brave enough there, do maybe some Metallica or Megadeth. Ultra Brave, maybe some Korn. Who knows, right?
That's not going to happen. I don't think that's it.
That gives you some insight into why I don't get on stage, among other reasons. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Safe travels for everybody. Make sure that everyone gets out there safe and sound. Come up, say hello to us. We'd love to meet folks who listen to the show. Tell us what we like, what you don't like, so we can make adjustments, all that good stuff. Website, idacpodcast.com, Twitter at IDAC Podcast on Twitter is that, and IDAC Podcast at infosec.exchange. Jim, any final thoughts for this episode?
Yeah, so I got some feedback about the opening jingle, and people are glad to have it back, glad to have the guitar riff.
I when I created that, I don't know how many years ago it was now, I was like, okay, well, I am not musical at all, but let me try to put something together. And I was surprised at how many people commented when we shift for episode 200 to a different jingle. So yes, back by popular demand, but with a better voiceover. I mean, my voiceover sucks. So
I think people mostly like the doom, 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 doom.
I'm going to turn that into a clip and make that like a ringtone or something.
I doubt you'll do that.
All right. Connect with Jim and I on LinkedIn. We'll have links in show notes. Looking forward to seeing everyone out in Vegas. And we'll talk with everyone in the next one.
You've been listening to Identity at the Center. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at identityatthecenter.com and find us on Twitter at IDAC Podcast. See you next time on Identity at the Center.